So here we have the 2 HP Pluck. This is a physical modelling Karplus strong algorithm to create plucked string sounds. Have a trigger in to trigger the voice. This is a full voice in 2 HP and a great sounding voice. Pitch control, which is your volt per octave, as well as your pitch tune. We have a damp knob and input, which is like the size of the string, and that will do all the sort of timbral shifts and tonal shifts we can do on the module. And we have a decay and input that will take us from short, clicky transients right through to kind of infinite harp style sounds. So let's get into some patches to explore how this thing sounds. So let's build up a patch to illustrate this voice. And to start with, we need something to trigger the notes. I'm going to use marbles, seeing as it's right next to it. As I said, we have pitch control. I'll do some interesting kind of weird digital synth type bass tones that we'll explore in a later patch. As I said, damp is like the length of the string. And that deals with the timbral shifts. Decay will go from clicky and transient to infinite held sounds. And we get 4-note polyphony, in that 4 notes will ring and overlap into each other, which is why I was able to trigger this a couple of times and retune some of them. So to get this going as a voice, we need some volt per octave information. Again, let's just use marbles. And you can hear that ringing of the notes, almost like holding down a sustain pedal on a piano or plucking separate strings on a guitar and letting those ring between the new notes. And it leads to this gorgeous developing chordal texture that works alongside your single monophonic inputs. Let's get some modulation in. So again, I'll carry on using marbles to decay. And also to damp. So now you've heard it in a fairly standard kind of patch. Let's move on to a couple of other patches that illustrate different ways you can use the pluck. So in this patch, I wanted to look at creating long, droning textures. So let's pull up what I have so far. I currently just have a trigger, steady clock, and a root 3rd, 5th, 7th. So there'll be some clashes between a note B and a note C, because it's C, E, G, B, like a major 7 chord coming out of the right-hand side of marbles. Now with decay up full, if I just pull my trigger and volt per octave, we have this 4-note polyphony that I've already mentioned. this will just ring and it sounds glorious. We can still CV the last voice, which is really cool. So let's try that. It's absolutely lovely. Let's turn up some spring reverb that I've got. There's a little bit of noise in there, but that's from my effect, by the way, not from Pluck. But it's just this gorgeous textural pad. Let's bring in a bit of the wet again, the dry again, sorry. This is now a 50-50 blend on my spring reverb. I'm going to leave it there for a minute. Let's take the range of marbles up to 5 volts, so potentially 5 octaves of this C major 7 chord. Let's get trigger back in so we can kind of freeze and hold 4 of those higher voices. Totally dry. And totally wet on the external spring reverb. Just going to go back to 2 volts and just sequence the last note that was played that's been infinitely held by the decay being up full. Absolutely gorgeous. So for this patch, I wanted to look at a lower bass register style voice. And you're hearing this currently pretty much exactly as it is. Trigger and pitch coming in. I'm tuned down low. But I'm actually running this through a filter. Now it doesn't need it, it's a full voice on its own, but you can still just treat it like a basic oscillator and process it through folding, distortions, filtering, VCAs after the patch. So let's just sweep down my low pass filter this is going through. Use an envelope to open up the cutoff on the filter. I'm going to make my envelope modulating my filter loop, so I get this kind of looping, re-triggered envelope action. It's almost adding like a tremolo style effect over this plucked string. It's just a quick patch just to highlight that you can and should and play around and experiment with not just using it as a full voice. Put it through something else like you would any other oscillator or sound source in a modular system. So for this patch, let's have a quick look at creating percussive sounds with the Pluck. It's great for more percussive based work as opposed to tonal, rich, melodic, string melody type work. I'm currently just triggering this. But let's add an envelope that I'm going to use some offsets and modulation of my envelope to create some shapes and try and mimic a kind of kick, low percussion type sound. So I'm going to raise the envelope's depth. Let's add in some hi-hats and a kick. that's just a quick look at using envelopes to the pitch input to create a little percussive sound to go along with your beats. So for this patch, I just wanted to use Pluck in a wider patch with some beats and some chord backing and some effects. Let's isolate the Pluck first. Here it is on its own. I'm pattern chaining with a new Divine quick pattern mode on the Eloquencer. That's sequencing everything. There's a sequence that's got just one static held note. The other two have melodies, one's a bit higher than the other. There's some ratchets, all sorts going on the Eloquencer. But if I just pull out my modulation, this is just the gate and pitch into Pluck. Have some random modulation of the dampening. So you can hear these timbral shifts from that damp control and its modulation. Have some modulation to decay that I'm externally attenuating. Let's pull that up. So some variations in sequencing and some modulation. There's a hell of a lot to be had with the Pluck. Here's the chord backing. I'll start building up the rest of the patch. Rest of the beat. So for this final patch, I'm just going to let this patch that's playing play out. Mutable Instruments Marbles is in control with a randomly shifting multiplication and division of the time, triggering the sound, volt per octave from a related stepped CV, and then using the other CV outputs to modulate damp and decay. I'll add some reverb in a minute. Huge thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe, comment, support me on Patreon if you'd like extra content. Thanks for watching.